All right, we have multiple pressing stories to get to, stories that include a quote-unquote bombshell about autism and the rate at which it's exploded in the United States, coming out of an NIH-affiliated university. Wait a minute, does the timing around this smell at all funny to you? Right when Trump wins in a landslide victory, promises to let RFK go to town on the deep state apparatus surrounding our government health institutions, they announced this. Also, multiple new picks for Trump's cabinet were just announced. Great news for the disclosure movement. And if anyone thinks this Trump administration is going to be anything like 2016, you have another thing coming for you. They are getting down to business. We have the details. Also, more shocking and disturbing reporting released about FEMA and what they did or didn't do during the aftermath of Hurricane Helene last month. This story will make your skin crawl. A major cover-up at work over there, and more stories from around the country. But before we get started, thank you for liking and sharing these videos. It really helps out the channel, and consider subscribing so you don't miss these regular updates.
Trump is at Mar-a-Lago, making calls to lawmakers and allies. Elon Musk and Robert F. Kennedy Jr. spending much of the day yesterday with Trump. Sources tell ABC News Musk and Kennedy are involved in meetings as Trump prepares to build out his cabinet and other top positions. Trump and his team are also preparing possible executive actions he could take on day one. Sources familiar with the planning say they're focused on Trump's top campaign promises, including launching mass deportations and tariffs on foreign goods.
So after years of corporate media and the experts shutting down the conversation around autism being on the rise, and even the mere suggestion that something's going on, you get banned, ostracized, canceled. Yet just 1 week after Trump wins in this landslide victory and promises to let RFK go to town on exposing and disclosing everything that happened during the pandemic and rooting out the rot that's infested our public health agencies, an NIH-affiliated institution comes out yesterday and announces a major bombshell report that they've identified the cause of this spike in autism in the United States. Look at this. On the front page of the Daily Mail this morning, autism bombshell. Scientists discover shock link as they reveal states in the U.S. that are now most at risk after cases in children and young adults have nearly tripled. And what is this bombshell? What are they saying is the cause? Air pollution, breathed in by women during pregnancy, may be linked to a greater risk of child developing autism, according to new research. A review of the latest literature has found babies with a genetic predisposition to autism exposed to 4 common air pollutants were more likely to develop the condition. And look at this, almost word for word, what RFK has been pointing out for years. Autism rates have been rising across the world, they say, over the past few decades. A recent analysis showed that in the U.S., rates have nearly tripled in children and young adults, and about 3 in every 100 kids has autism spectrum disorder. Dr. Amal, they say, the head of the Department of Laboratory Neuromics at Hebrew University of Jerusalem, keep that name in the back of your head, said they were trying to understand what might be contributing to this rise in disease. Now, is this just a coincidence, a crazy coincidence that they're putting this out right now? Realize this is how our system works, folks, how the media works. They need a hook to grab onto to be able to combat a future narrative. So is it just a coincidence that this comes out just a week after Trump spanked Kamala Harris and promises to let RFK Jr. go in and blow the lid off NIH and CDC? I don't know, but it wouldn't surprise me, not in the slightest. And look who released this report, the Hebrew University of Jerusalem, the same institution that Fauci's NIH awarded the largest ever grant in NIH's history. So no, it wouldn't surprise me at all when we start hearing RFK next year come out after looking under the hood at NIH and giving us a whole slew of truth, that the media respond with this report or some version of it, admitting that yes, RFK is right about the spike, but wrong about the reason why. And let's not forget, never in the history of this country have the American people been in a better position. We have the chance right now, for the first time ever, to learn some real truth, some raw truth. Donald Trump will be the disclosure president. It's what I've been told to expect. It's what the American people are demanding. It's what we deserve. And not just disclosure around the pandemic. We're talking about on broad terms, the UAP Disclosure Act, the pandemic, all the files that the FBI seized from that island in the Caribbean, the JFK assassination. So much has been kept from us. And from the way he's putting his cabinet together, I believe it's exactly what we're going to receive, which brings us to our next story. Donald Trump continuing to fill his new administration, announcing multiple new picks. South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem as DHS Secretary. Now, this is the person who's going to actually be carrying out the mass deportation agenda, the immigration policy. If you needed any more proof that Trump was serious about deporting Joe Biden's 15 million gotaways, look no further. He nominated Tom Homan as border czar, who's going to be developing the strategy and coordinating the agenda while DHS carries it out. Here's Tom Homan last night explaining in harsh terms to Sean Hannity, who doesn't get it, just how serious Trump is on getting this done. Watch.
Run it again. And we know what happens to these children, Sean. And look, the illegal aliens coming across the border, people need to understand, 31% of women that make that journey get raped by criminal cartels. Children get raped. I've talked to little girls as young as 9 that have been raped multiple times. These cartels are animals, and that's why President Trump's going to take them off the face of the earth. They have killed more Americans than every terrorist organization in the world. And President Trump is committed to calling them terrorist organization and using the full might of the United States Special Operations to take them out.
So the border is a lock. In my mind, Trump's campaign promise to fix immigration, I have no doubt he's going to get that done. But I put that in a separate bucket. I put that over here. Next, we have foreign policy, military, and transparency. I loop those three things together in their own bucket. We still don't know who he's going to pick for Secretary of Defense. Critical role. I told you yesterday how Trump, for some crazy reason, interviewed Mike Rogers for that job, who would be the worst possible pick for transparency and just in general. But he did choose Congressman Mike Waltz as National Security Advisor. And reportedly, he's considering Senator Marco Rubio as Secretary of State. Now, from the outside, these two picks may appear very establishment-like. Marco Rubio obviously walks that line on social media. A lot of people are mad that he chose Marco Rubio, but let me tell you why he picked these two. First, there's two jobs in Trump's cabinet that aren't easy to fill. It doesn't matter how large the majority is in the Senate. Secretary of State and Secretary of Defense. Those two jobs can't be easily filled by any random yahoo Trump wants. Both of those jobs require the highest security clearance, and the process to obtain that clearance for a civilian could take months. Marco Rubio already has it. He's a member of the Gang of Eight, plus he's fully vetted. Trust me, the list of people that Trump was given, that Trump was allowed to even pick from for Secretary of Defense and Secretary of State was very small. The other reason, though, Trump chose them, and something you won't hear many people say, is that both of them are outside the Overton window, even though it doesn't appear that way. Why do I say that? Well, look, this is one of my litmus tests. Take a very sensitive issue that puts the American people at odds with the establishment, with the keepers of the secrets. Which side the candidate falls on in that fight tells you what you need to know. So, as an example, what's the most highly guarded secret in Washington? The UAP topic. Both of them were outraged after hearing about whistleblower David Grush's testimony last year. Yet Mike Rogers and Mike Turner dismissed it, and they killed the UFO Disclosure Act, which tells you a lot. And both of these picks, Trump announced yesterday for a reason. Tomorrow, November 13th, Congress is holding a UAP hearing. As crazy as it sounds, this is all connected. Where I'm told they're going to be setting up a path for disclosure in the Trump administration. They are making it known to get ready. These secrets are coming out. Here's Mike Waltz, Trump's new national security advisor. Roll the tape.
To UFOs, UAPs, whatever you want to call it. I think we need to take this incredibly seriously.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask for a briefing and sit down of what this whistleblower is alleging. But basically, to boil it down, is Congress directed the Pentagon to put together an interagency task force across the intelligence community to look at all of these anomalies, these strange objects that are doing things that we can't explain, that are defying physics. And this individual is saying that through that process, he found compartmented programs that weren't being considered by the congressionally mandated task force, that weren't being briefed to Congress in a manner that's appropriate with oversight. And when he brought that to his superiors in the Pentagon, he was retaliated against.
Correct.
Take a step back. I think why Americans are seeing so many, feel like this is really new, and they're seeing so much reporting of these sites, is because we now have such a proliferation around the world of satellites, of radars, of sensors, of cameras that, 20, 30 years ago, it was, Joe Bob in his pickup truck takes a grainy photo of something he sees in the sky. Now we have radar imagery, thermals, different types of infrared sensors. You can't deny this stuff. Mm-hmm. This is real hard data that is showing objects that are doing things that can't be explained. And it's that data that we've demanded the intelligence community and the Pentagon analyze and come back to Congress to explain, and through us to the American people.
In another story, the Biden-Harris administration has now admitted that FEMA failed to help residents in North Carolina, in Tennessee, and in Florida after Hurricane Helene last month. This is one of those stories that'll make your skin crawl. Fired FEMA manager who was caught red-handed instructing FEMA personnel to discriminate against Trump supporters to purposely avoid helping anyone with a Trump yard sign. Well, she's now claiming that Biden and Harris are making her into a patsy, saying that they're blaming it all on her, but that this wasn't an isolated incident. This was like broad policy, she says. Watch.
According to a bombshell report by the Daily Wire, a FEMA manager told relief workers in Florida to not help homes with Trump signs. Internal messages obtained by the Daily Wire shows the list of rules for FEMA canvassers. Rule number 2, avoid homes advertising Trump. So after FEMA confirmed that the messages were real, Director Deanne Criswell fired the employee and called her messages reprehensible. In response, the fired FEMA manager told Primetime that this wasn't an isolated incident, and, quote, FEMA has made me a patsy. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis is demanding a full investigation and wants every partisan bureaucrat fired. But it looks like the agency's problems go deeper than just one employee. We also found out that FEMA didn't answer half the calls it received for disaster aid. Half the calls to FEMA after the hurricane went to voicemail. No response.
All right, that wraps up this episode. Like, subscribe. We'll see you next time.